You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
Tampa Bay and the New York Giants. You know, for a while there, I thought, okay, it was a Tom Brady show, and rightfully so. The announcers made sure you understood that.
Yeah.
But for a while there, I noticed the Patriots, Freudian. So the Buccaneers couldn't score. It was a 17-10 game, and I kept thinking, well, you know, keep messing around. But Daniel Jones looked disoriented, and the whole offense looked disoriented.
You know, that's Daniel Jones. I've never been a fan because he can flash and be really good, but he'll just miss for no reason. He just misses, you know, on these critical throws, and he's been that way his whole career, and then he'll catch fire and go on a streak, but he's got that in him. And he's got those dumb throws. He just can't shake him. Under pressure, he's just not very good. He just hasn't been. So, but I think that defensively, their plan was good for the Buccaneers. You know, they made him go the long way. You know, they didn't give him any big chunks to speak of in that first half. They made him just kind of dink him to death. But you know what? For him, you look at that camera from behind, Ron. You know the QB camera, how they show it from behind.
Right.
It was like 7-on-7. It was like he was throwing a 7-on-7 drill with no pass rush.
There's zero pass rush from the Giants.
No.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's gotten him flustered is, you know, when people have really gotten after him, they've been successful. And that's when he has those errant throws and he panics a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3 turnovers, that'll get you killed every single time.
Well, they were just ugly turnovers, just stupid turnovers, you know.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose the defense because the defense is in there slugging it out. They're not real good on defense, but they're good enough to win.
You're right. No, that's right. They were in there slugging it out. And I like the Bradbury kid in the corner. He does what he can, but there's not a lot going on up front. But like you said, they do what they can do. So Buccaneers with a relative easy one for them, 30-10. Let's move on to the other games, Mike, and I'll start with the Kansas City-Dallas game. And I think you mentioned this last week, that you felt like Kansas City has now gotten their groove back a little bit, and it starts with the quarterback. They've been able to settle Mahomes down or redirect Mahomes, whatever term you want to use. But you can see now they're starting to look like the older Kansas City Chiefs. Well,
they've got to keep a leash on them. There was one play in there, Ron, I don't know if you noticed it, but they got down the end in the red zone, I think it was the first or second quarter, and they ended up coming away with a field goal. On the third down throw, he missed over on the left side somehow. I don't remember, but the camera flashed to he coming off the field and talking to Eric Bieniemy, and Eric is asking what happened.
Yeah,
I remember that. He was waving his hands, telling him this, that, and the other thing, and Eric Bieniemy just looked at him and just shook his head. You know,
I saw that. That was strange.
Yeah. So
that was
My point there is, I think that's what he's been in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And they got to put a leash on him. Say, listen, the ball's supposed to go there, then the ball should go there. And if it's covered, then you go over here. But don't just start making this stuff up and going off on your own because you think you can do that, you know. And that's what gets him in trouble. And you've got to keep a tight leash on him because he's so talented. He has so much confidence in his ability. He'll just throw it where he wants to, and you cannot have a quarterback do that.
Yeah. You know, a guy that it is still doing something very uncharacteristic for him. And you always make the point, well, the ball placement wasn't excellent, but Travis Kelce is dropping more balls than I've ever seen him drop.
It's interesting that you said that because a week ago, I think he'd had like 2 or 3 drops in a game. And it's interesting that you said that because he's been such a big playmaker for them. And then all of a sudden he's kind of gotten quiet too.
Yeah. And I don't know what's going on there. It could be a number of things.
But here's the thing that happened with the Chiefs. You know, the defensive coordinator there, Spagnuolo I know really well, and Spags is creative. He takes what he has and does the best he can. But in the past few weeks, they really kind of just kept the ball in front of them, didn't give up any big plays. They weren't pressuring a lot, and they didn't play a lot of man. Against Dallas, they went after him. Obviously, they didn't think much of their offensive line. And then, they're a shorter receiver or two, and they just locked up with those receivers and just shut them down. Now, on the other side of that run, Dallas Cowboys come into this game. You got the best 1-2 punch in football. I don't care who, better than Cleveland, better than anybody. Those two backs combined, if you let them run, they're
Pollard and Zeke. They sure
yes.
are. Boy, they are something else.
The first series or two, they didn't touch the ball. Yeah. Now you're playing Kansas City, who can explode and score points. What do? You keep that team off the field. You grind it out. You take it down there, and you're missing some receivers anyway, right? And get the ball to the tight end. And then when you're getting blitzed, you get all this man-to-man coverage. It's just all these one-on-one routes outside. Guys can't get off the press. So what you have to do, you start crossing routes and you start motioning guys and switch releasing and get the ball to the back Pollard out of the backfield is dynamite. And you beat it. But they didn't do any of that. They just sat in this. I just think that they went into this game with a very poor image of what Kansas City's defense was going to be, and Spags outcoached him on it, basically. And I think the Cowboys just had a horrible game plan. I don't blame the players for any of that, other than the Cowboy offensive line.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught it, but at one point in the game, Troy Aikman said, well, I don't know what the game plan coming in was, but you've got to be able to run the ball, and you should be running the ball. And they weren't running the ball.
No.
And that was his way of saying, run the damn ball. Kansas City finishes the game. I'm looking at my stats real quick. They finished the game 126 yards rushing total or net. And the Cowboys had 82.
That's absurd.
That's a
absurd.
complete flip of what.
Yeah, I guess really not a real good, historically a real good KC defense, And
no,
when they're blitzing, here's what I know. Remember Jimmy Johnson from Philadelphia?
Jimmy Johnson, the old DC.
All the crazy blitzes he had. Yeah. And we were always able to beat them. And the way we beat them is we ran the football into the blitzes. And you hit a crack and you're out the gate, and when you have all those pressures, you just don't have a lot of gap control, and you start getting teams run the football, and you can have some bad plays running, but you just, with those two backs against that team, you got to get them started. You got to get them going. Otherwise, it's a one-dimensional game. And it's that offensive line right now, they just couldn't block them. And then they left guys free coming off the edge. The tackle did. They were confused. So the offensive line play was horrendous. I think the game plan for them was horrendous. They did not adjust during the game at all. I don't blame the Cowboy players for this. This is a coaching snafu there all the way. And I think that they need to take a good look at that. It's a little bit like Buffalo. You got a big-time quarterback like that, and you got two coordinators just kind of they get caught up in whammy-bammy all over the field throwing it, and the numbers and all that stuff. And that's what's happened to Buffalo, too. They've abandoned the running game.
Mike, is it the head coach's responsibility while that is going on in a game to say to your guy, okay, look, I know what you came in here with, but that crap ain't working. Here's what we need to do right now. Is that what the head coach needs to do?
You need to do that as a head coach. There's no question, but it should never get to that. I mean, if you're a coordinator and you see what's going on out there, there just was no adjustment whatsoever. And I don't remember the comment by Troy Aikman, but that was a good point. And at that point, at the second half, even if you're down, whatever it was, 10, 14 points, whatever it was, you still climb your way back in the game by running the football. That's what you do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. In talking about that game, that's Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator with the Cowboys. If I'm McCarthy, whether it's halftime or somewhere in the first quarter, I said, look, run the damn ball. Okay, I don't care what you drew up, what we practice all week. Just start running the damn ball.
Yeah, no question. Yeah,
and that's that. It can't. This ain't a nice conversation, and it's not meant to be nice.
Well,
You
and
mentioned,
his defense, he's been really good, and he's run the ball
yeah,
well. He
you're
still
right.
gets caught up in the, just throwing it down the field because he's got
Right.
that quarterback and the receivers to do it. But it's about winning football games and protecting your defense too, and you got to be able to do that.
Right. That's my point. Yeah. Kid's done a nice job, but now we're struggling. So he needed to politely be reminded. We have two pretty good running backs. Let's use them.
Well, even at
Yeah.
that, Ron, you just change what you do in the passing game too. You're not going to sit back there and hold the ball and throw it down the field. You just got to get it out of there quick, as quickly as you can. So in Kansas City, did a great job of coaching on both sides of the ball. Spags got to him. He had a great plan for him. It put them on their heels. They didn't adjust. And offensively, they put the leash on Mahomes and they kept him disciplined what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they do that, then they'll get back into that level of play that they have been enjoying the last 2 years, I think.
Yeah. Well, Dallas is still okay in the NFC East because there isn't a lot popping, even though Philadelphia is starting to stabilize and move a little bit. Washington had a big win for them.
But Ron, let me tell you this. Yeah. They will have a hell of a time beating Washington. They got to play them twice yet.
I was going to say that, right. Washington is now looks like they're trying to turn the corner. That was a big win over Carolina.
Well, Heineke is, you know how I feel about that kid.
Yeah, you like him. I like him too.
When I first saw him play, this kid's special. He has what Stafford doesn't have. He has a feel for the game. He's talented and all that stuff. He's not a tall guy, fast guy, big guy. All he does is make good throws when he's supposed to make it, where he's supposed to throw it, and those guys, they figure out a way to win, and he's a very competitive, very competent quarterback. I know people think that he should be replaced. No, I think he's a really good player. It's going to be in the league for a long time.
Yeah. No, you're talking about that division in NFC East. So now Dallas is 7-3. Philadelphia, second place at 5-6, but they seem to have some momentum. Washington, one game behind, as Mike mentioned, at 4-6. But those second and third place teams appear to have some momentum. And as we know, this time of the year, momentum is everything. Forget how you started. Forget the quarterback that you replaced and all of that crap. Right now, it's about momentum and who's playing best. Mike, you mentioned Buffalo, the Buffalo Indy game. And I went back and I looked at that game again on tape last night. So first things first, the Colts came in and they balled their fist up, as we used to say, and they punched them in the face. And then they stepped back and they looked at him. Then they punched him in the face again. And from the opening kickoff, the Bills weren't right. It was just a physical game. Colts took control, and that's what the score indicated at the end of it. And the second thing is, remember, that is Frank Reich's old stomping ground. Frank Reich came up there.
They love him up there, yeah.
Yeah, he came up there to kick some butt. But they also remembered that they lost in the playoff game up there last year. So all these factors came into this. And the way this kid ran the ball, Jonathan Taylor, somebody asked me about MVP. I think it's too early, but if I had to pick one right now, I mean, he is definitely high up
in the conversation. Yeah, he sure is in the conversation. Ron, when you're not a physical team, when you don't run the football well, I'm not talking about how many times you run it, but when you're not a physical team up front and you don't run it well, then when you play teams that can, since you don't see that in practice, defensively, it's hard on you. And they're not a physical team. They used to be, but somehow they've lost that. And the attempt to run is just kind of a cursory. Okay, well, now it's time to we'll just run something, and then you get 2 yards on it. Well, see, we can't run, so we got to throw it. And you have to commit in certain situations to grinding that thing out, and just get first downs. They're just falling in love with getting that ball way down the field. You got to get first downs against a team like that. That's the only way you get back in. What they did, if you looked at it, is they took those downfield throws like people have done to Seattle over the years, and they leveled off 4 guys back there. They just didn't give it to them.
Breida, with 51 yards, led the Bills, and Singletary, he only had 17. Josh Allen was a second leading rusher with 18. But Jonathan Taylor had 185 yards rushing. And Mike, you could tell they were in trouble from the start. And Colts offensive line is physical. It's a shame now they got Quentin Nelson hurt. He re-injured that ankle somewhere in maybe the third quarter, fourth quarter. I think it was the fourth quarter. So we'll keep an eye on that. But they're very physical up front.
Ron, perhaps it's not so much about Buffalo as it is about Indianapolis and how good they're becoming. I think would they start off 1-4 or something like that? Didn't they? Or
had some early losses and lost to the Rams there.
Ugly losses. They lost ugly to Seattle.
Quarterback wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
We talked about that, but you said the quarterback was going to come around. You said this back in week 2, and I disagreed with you because I couldn't see it. But he's starting to come around. He's
playing good, and it's because of the relationship he has, of course, with the head coach here. But when you really look at it, he has not had a lot of snaps in this league. He played good, then he got injured. He played a little bit, got injured.
That's a good point.
And they just got tired of him, and now he's in Indianapolis, and he's steady, and they're protecting him.
Yeah, no, they are, and I love the coach, not just because I played alongside the guy in Buffalo, but Frank Reich is a football man. He's going to play common sense football. He's going to use his weapons, and he's not going to beat himself most of the time, and that's what I think they're doing now. He has a love for this game and the players and the people in it, which is remarkable in that league because it's such an intense business atmosphere. But I just have a lot of respect for who he is as a man as well. Yeah, he and Andy Reid are like that. They're both just unique in that profession, I think. That's right. Well, Buffalo better pick it up now. All of a sudden, they're 6-4, and guess what? You are now second in the AFC East, my friend.
And don't they have to play them twice now?
They do have to play.
They got to play New England twice.
Oh boy, yeah. Belichick is sitting back. Got him.
Okay, think about this. You got to play New England in December at the end of, November and December. You got to play New England in the cold out there, and you can't run the football.
Yeah, and you can't run the football.
That's not good.
No, that's how it goes down. That's what you earned. What do they say? You are what your record says you are. Not what the press says you are, not what you think you are, and all that good stuff. You are what the record says you are. And yeah, you're right. Like, here it is. I'm looking at it. The Patriots will see Buffalo December 6th. That's in exactly 2 weeks. And in between that time, Buffalo's going to have to go slug it out with Tennessee. They'll be in a bad mood because they just dropped one to Houston. Yeah. All right. So that'll make for a fun evening. And then December 26th, the day after Christmas, you've got to take on Buffalo, or Buffalo will take on the Patriots.
Something tells me that Belichick's got 2 big red circles around those dates.
Yeah, you think? You think? Oh man! So it's
fun to watch. No matter what you feel about Belichick, though, it's fun to watch what he's done up there and resurrected the organization after that off year. And you made mention about all the, they sold the future, for the immediate success in Super Bowls and whatnot, and they've overcome that, and they're coming out of it. And with guys that are just, basically no stars, just your average NFL player that plays his ass off,
garden variety NFL player,
no question. But in 01 when we played him, it was that way until we played him up there on Sunday night, and I think they were like, I don't know, I think they were 4-5 maybe. And we beat him up there. But after the game, the media asked me what I thought of them. This is New England media. And I said, "This is the best team we've played since I've been in the NFL." And they thought I was crazy. They were they knocked 9 of our guys out of the game. 9 guys. They hit us right in the mouth.
So would you say, if you had to pick 2 teams that have not only turned things around, but are very physical and playing really good football right now, would it be New England and Indy?
No, I'd have to pick Arizona. Arizona.
Okay.
Even without the quarterback, they're finding ways to win. They're doing it right.
They are, and I'm not going to crown them until they get past the Rams one more time. Yeah. Just because I know the shot they're going to get from the Rams will be the Rams' best shot and possibly final shot. Because remember, the Rams have dropped two games to divisional opponents. the 49ers and them. So this is gonna be a big game coming up when they play the second time.
Well, with
around.
Kyler Murray back and healthy, and they're a solid football team.
Yeah,
I just think they're better than the Rams. I do. They played better.
I think they are too. Yeah.
And defensively, they're solid. Special teams, they do a great job. They're just a real solid team, and he's such a unique player. He's probably would be my pick for the MVP. I mean, he's just really
No, that's
player.
another MVP pick. I kind of lost sight of him just because he was out for the week here or so. But when he's back, they are different, and they need him back on that field. Well, we were talking about New England and Atlanta. Not much of a game, but that was on Thursday night. So let's go back to that real quick.
You know what happens in games like that when you're a good team like that? Atlanta's a terrible team right now.
Yeah.
How does Tennessee play the Titans and get beat? See, that won't happen with Belichick. And that's not an indictment against the head coach of Tennessee at all, but that's just not going to happen with him. That just would never happen. The intensity, they do not blink, that they're just like a machine, and they're all in. They don't have those ups and downs, and the performance level never changes. They're held to that performance level every week. And, it's about themselves. It's not about who they play. It's about them, and they don't play below that level every week. And that's how you do it.
I don't know that Matt Ryan's going to make it through the season. Boy, I've never seen a guy get beat up so bad, and just in the first half. I mean, they were hitting him, and then he messed his toe up, and you could see he was an older quarterback who had a bunch of young guys around it and a system that was fractured. And they look like a team truly in transition, and that's exactly what they are.
Yeah, and I really like him. I've always liked him as a quarterback and a competitor. But here's a guy at the end of his career with a bunch of young kids in a bad system trying to compete, and that's
it. That's what it was. Yeah. So the Mac Jones, before the game, they showed a shot of him, and it was pregame warm up, and he was smiling, laughing, joking around, and I'm thinking, okay, he's not caught up in, oh my gosh, this is a national game. I've really got to look good now because it's a national game. No, he was just relaxed and playing football. And
like who he is, Ron. I just like they've done a great job on drafting and selecting players. They get guys that compete at the highest level. They may not be as talented in some areas as other guys, but they've done a great job of preparing him and bringing him along. And he's got one of those guys got ice in his veins. He's like, the guy that was there before.
Like the guy that was there before. Right. Yeah. I remember talking to Tom Brady before your game, before the Super Bowl down there in New Orleans. And, this was, oh gosh, this was like a kid in a candy store for the very first time. And I remember walking up to him at pregame warm-up and shook hands, and I said, so how you feeling? And he didn't answer my question. He just looked up and he looked around the stadium, and I thought, okay, he's BSing me. He must be mic'd up or cameras on him or something. And he looked back down. He said, I can't believe I'm here. I said, I'm just taking all this in. And I thought to myself, okay, you're going to get your ass kicked. But that was just him. And
they're excited
guys are like that.
Well, they're so excited about, instead of being intimidated by the opportunity, they just engage it and just use it, and they just have great fun. It's legal to have fun and play football. I mean, it is.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I like Jones. I really like who he is and how he approaches the game in the huddle. It's just contrary to Belichick, which is really cool. He's got a smile on his face all the time.
Yeah. And I think Mahomes is starting to get that back. He had that when he first started early on. Yeah. So that's right. So speaking of a guy who I don't think has a smile on his face right now, Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers just went through the whole COVID vaccination, no vaccination drama. So now they go into Minnesota, and boy, he makes the play at the end of the game there. And I thought it was a done. Yeah, I thought it was a done deal. And I thought it was a done deal also when Savage intercepted the ball, but they replayed it. They felt it hit the ground. And Kirk Cousins, Mike, did something that I haven't seen Kirk Cousins do in a while. In a big game, a tight game, he brought his team back and they won the game. That was big.
When you go back and look at all the games that they've lost, most all of them have been at the final play of the game.
That's right.
At the very, very end.
That's
they
right.
could very easily just have one or two losses. They're good enough, and they'll make a real hard charge coming down the stretch here. Kirk Cousins, you know how I feel about. We did his first start. Remember, they're playing Cleveland when he was at Washington. We did his very first start. Yeah, and I just was taken by him. I think I've always felt like he's a very talented quarterback and a good competitor and all that stuff. I like him. But I think one of the things that happens with Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, this is just kind of how he's always been. He kind of feels you out for a quarter. In other words, there are a couple of flat throws or trying to run it, try and get a little running game going and all that stuff. And then they kind of fall behind. Then he's okay, take the gloves off. Let's go. Let's just kind of let him play, and they did that against Minnesota. They just couldn't get anything going in the first quarter. And then they kind of went into a 2-minute drill the rest of the game and just let Aaron Rodgers play, so to speak.
Yeah. Arizona, Dallas, Baltimore. Speaking to your point about close games, those are all close games that came down to either the last play, last kick, whatever the case.
Could have won easily, yeah.
Yeah, that they could have won. So, and that's dangerous, Mike, because if you look at a team's record only, and I know NFL coaches don't do that typically, but
players
look at it. Players, well, right, exactly. That was my point. Players will do that. And if you look at a record only, you think, oh, well, hell, Minnesota's not very good. We got this game. They came into that game 4-5. No, that's a 4-5 team. That was a 4-5 team that plays more like a 7-3 team.
Yeah, they could have been 8-2 very easily.
Yeah.
It's like Tennessee. You're playing Houston. They're awful. They're bad on tape, and you just can't convince your players that they can beat you. You know what I mean? And no matter what you say, and then you get in that stadium, and then it's raining, it's sloppy, and you don't have your running back, and everything goes wrong. It's one of those days.
Oh, that's so funny you say. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to keep saying it because the comparisons, the parallels between coaches to other coaches is unreal. How many times have I heard my father say that? He said, yeah, he'd come home pissed off, really, because he said, this is going to be a tough game for us because we can't make them understand that this team is going to come in here ready to go because they look at record like you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, the quarterback alone should scare you. I mean, because he's capable of doing some crazy things.
He turned it up, Mike. He turned it up another level.
He's a little bit like Kyler Murray in that respect. He can take off and go. He's quick. He's got some real attributes that make it very difficult for a defense.
But he's gone to another level now.
He has. Yeah, they've done a good job with him. But, early in the year when he played very well. And, Lovey's running the defense down there, so they're just not going to shoot themselves in the foot. They're not going to give up big plays, but.
No, that's right. Now, and I got to be careful what I say here because he did throw that interception.
Yeah.
Okay, now the kid dropped it, but if he holds on that ball, we're having a different conversation. Yeah, right. But hey, you know what? It doesn't go down like that in this business. If you dropped it, and that's it, and they won the game. So.
I don't know who Tennessee has next week. I'm not sure I want to be on that team, but I think they'll get their full wrath. I just don't know how good Tennessee is right now on offense. They've been kind of nickel and diamond people and trying to stay in games and win it at the end and all that stuff, but they're not bullying people and just kind of ripping it up like they were earlier in the year. Right.
We were talking about the Tennessee, not having Derrick Henry there. That makes a difference too.
A huge difference.
Maybe, Mike, that's starting to come back around. What do you think?
Well, the quarterback's really ultimately not good enough to put it on his shoulders and win a game.
Yeah,
against a good team anyway. He can for a week or two, but over the long haul, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So they have New England. We mentioned that earlier. So Tennessee will take on New England, and it's at New England.
Oh, it's at New England. Yeah, it's a tough duty right now.
No, that's now you've got your work cut out for you. As they say, you made life hard for yourself, but that's where it is.
But I still think that's going to be a slugfest. It'll be hard for him, but it'll be a tight game up there.
It will be a slugfest. And remember now, that's Mike Vrabel, the former Patriot player, going back into New England to take on his old coach. So that's going to be a good one to watch. Chargers got Pittsburgh, and I kind of felt like that was going to happen because Pittsburgh has danced their way out of the fire last couple of weeks here. Probably should have lost the Bears game. Got ugly with officiating at the end, but in the end, the Chargers and Herbert took care of business.
They did. He's such a good player, Ron. He's the one guy I want. If I got a chance to watch any game, I want to watch the Chargers. I just want to watch that kid play. I think he's something special. I do know that defensively, Brandon, he plays very, very static and simple because they're not very good. You know what I mean, Ron? So in other words, if they start pressuring everybody, they're just not good enough to hold up outside, you know what I mean, to eliminate some big throws. So they just try to keep the ball in front of them. And ultimately, they're not very good on offense. Pittsburgh's not very good. And they put a bunch of points on. So they've got to change. I think maybe what they're going to have to do, they're going to have to get out there on the ledge and bring the heat like he did when he was a coordinator at the Rams a little bit. But they're so deficient in some areas on defense, personnel-wise. It's hard.
Yeah, that's Ronaldo Hill, the defensive coordinator. He's been trying to dial it up the right way all year, and it's been rough on him. And they're so bad against the run, Mike. They're the last rated team in the NFL at run stopping, and that's not helping it.
Well, one of the things I always looked at with teams that are bad against the run, first of all, look at the safeties. Because the safeties are the guys, the last line of defense, so to speak. They're the guys that keep a 5-yard run from becoming a 25.
You don't look at the tackles. You don't look at how they're on their front four or anything like that.
No, they're not keeping guys off the linebackers. Their defensive line, their tackles just aren't keeping the offensive line up. So linebackers are getting cut off, but that's all right. I mean, you can just kind of move your way down the field. But when you start giving up big chunks, usually the safeties aren't fitting very good.
Yeah.
And but when you let an offensive line get off and cut off linebackers, then it's going to be a long day for you.
Yeah.
The good news about that is people cannot just stand in there and slug it out with you because Herbert's going to get the ball and, they're going to, in quick order, they're going to go down and put the ball in the end zone more than likely. So, but I think the way to beat him obviously would be to keep him on the sideline as much as you can. Yeah.
Cincinnati and the Raiders, since he went out to Vegas and got a win there, Raiders have dropped three in a row since the bye week. Obviously, a lot's gone on in this organization, on and off the field.
The bye week, and then, of course, the tragedy that happened, and they've just never recovered from that.
Yeah, no. So I don't know that Bisaccia, the interim head coach, is going to be able to right this pirate ship, but stay tuned on that one.
Yeah.
And the last one we're going to talk about, Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. Tough one there, and you mentioned it with Kyler Murray in Arizona. Yeah, I've never seen Pete melt down in a press conference. That was a first. That was a first.
The media have been kind of treated to a guy that's really high energy and very happy no matter what happens. It's always half full, and he got in there and had that meltdown, and it's he's reached the point now where I'm not sure Pete's going to stick around there.
Yeah. No, that's what it looks like, and he's in new territory too, Mike. He's never lost like this. I've never seen him lose like this.
Well, here's what's happened, Ron. They're not very good on defense, and that's his baby.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is obviously just a great football player, and they've gone through a couple coordinators now trying to satisfy that whole situation. But I don't know what they are on offense. They don't run the football at all. They don't. They got Metcalf, who is a big time player, but they just kind of. Once people play, then they shut down those big throws. Remember at the beginning of the year we were talking about that? They shut that down and make them go the long haul. They'll self-destruct. They just have.
That's what it is, Mike. They've taken away the big time play, And once you do that, I always felt like, what do they have after that? Chris Carson's hurt. He's been hurt on and off all season. They've had to now go to Collins as a running back. He's not scaring anyone. They don't have a run game. They've got nothing.
No, they don't. They don't have a running game. The big play down the field with Metcalf.
That's gone.
Yeah, they double
Lockett
that.
can't carry that.
So they make you go the long, hard way, just getting first downs and getting the ball down, and they can't do that. They self-destruct.
Yeah, they're 3-7 now in Arizona. Of course, 9-2. Wow, Arizona's going to get to that promised land. It used to be the promised land, Mike, of 10 wins. That's what our coaches used to always say, guys. If we get to 10, because usually once you get to 10, you're going to be in the playoffs in a 16-game season, right?
Very unusual for you not to. Yeah.
Right. So it's the race to 10, and this is why life is so hard on the Los Angeles Rams, because Arizona is sitting at 9-2 already. Okay. Yeah. So the season's all but done for Seattle. And again, like you pointed out, Pete Carroll's never lost like this and then can't fix. He's even brought in some of his old cronies, his old guys like Carl Smith that he's known forever. Carl Smith has been in the league a long time.
Tater, yeah.
Yeah, brought him back, brought some guys from SC back up there. And I get it. It's frustrating. He made a great point. One of the lines in his speech there at the press conference was, I just don't ever want to get used to this. And he's talking about, I don't ever want to get used to talking and explaining losing. And I thought that was key.
Yeah, I think they just have too many problems to solve this year. They got a lot going on up there. Yeah. And they just are vanilla to nothing on offense. It's hard to see. Without Russell Wilson, when he was out, you could see how bad it could be.
Yeah. And now this is a 17-game schedule.
Right.
17 games, 18 weeks. Mike, I think this year is going to be a lot about attrition as well as it is who's playing well down the stretch.
Well, I think too, that's why you have games like Tennessee had and the Buffalo Bills had, the Cowboys, it's such a long season. You have those moments where you just kind of go dark for a week or two, then you got to come back out of it. But the whole idea here is, we should say this, even if you don't win the division, the whole idea is get into the playoffs. Then no matter what's happened the rest of the season, all sins are forgiven.
Would you say all sins are forgiven?
All sins are forgiven. It's just
they sure are, boy.
I was going to ask the question, the 49ers, I think it was their second Super Bowl with Walsh there. They got beat. They went back, got beat by the Eagles 55-6.
Wow.
55-6. And then they came back and won the Super Bowl that year. It happens. Wow. It just happens.
Yeah. And that's why,
you have to redirect. And even, the New England Patriots at times have gone through that, up there. They've had that time where they stubbed their toe, and
of course,
it's a 1 week deal, 2 week deal, and then they're back in a groove,
Yeah, and that's why I want to make sure I don't pile on Buffalo and other teams that have lost, Tennessee, because it's just 1 week, and I think they're good enough. Buffalo is not to make that a habit, as is Tennessee. But
that's a great head coach. That's a great head coach. They have problems on defense. He'll resolve that.
Right.
They'll go to work and they'll resolve that. What they can't resolve is they just are ineffective rushing the football. And they have to do something about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you get in that situation, and like you say, you're a good coach, you're a good team, good players, but now you got a team that has resurged like New England, and now you walk into a bear trap. See, you don't want to have to fight that hard. You want to win the ones you should win and can win. And then you go fight your ass off for the ones that you have to fight for.
So Buffalo made so many mistakes in that game with turnovers, all those things that they did. Yeah. When you play New England, you cannot make mistakes. You have to, because they're not going to make a mistake no matter what. They're not going to have penalties. They're not going to turn the ball over. All those things that get you beat, they're just not going to do it.
No, you're not going to get that. We're going to move on, Mike, to next week's games. But before we do, let me just close out Dallas here, because this kind of puts in perspective now how big this loss to Kansas City may have been. They now have, the Cowboys have 3 games in 12 days because they're on this Thanksgiving circuit. So they're going to play the Raiders on Thanksgiving Day. Okay, that's 2 days from now, by the way.
Right.
Then they've got the Saints on Sunday night, December 2nd, and that's at the Saints. Then they've got the Washington football team at Washington on the 12th. Okay, so that's 3 games, 12 days. And the remaining 3 games, or the 3 games after the Raider game, are all on the road. Saints, Washington, New York Giants on the road. Key situation here, key moment in their schedule.
I think to their benefit, I think the fact that they are playing a team in the Raiders right now, that's on a downward spiral.
Oh, that's going to help.
And I think you had the same thing with the Saints. They are really struggling right now.
Yeah,
they're really having, and they've lost the tight end now too, and the back is dinged up. And you got the Saints. When you got the Saints, and then the Giants, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So 3 of the 4 teams are teams that they should win. The Washington Redskins at the Redskins, Redskins, I guess I can't say that. The Washington football team, that's going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, and the Saints have hit a roadblock or a speed bump. And it's like they hit another speed bump. It's like, sometimes you drive through a parking lot and there's double speed bumps. Well, they've got triple speed bumps. They just can't seem to get back on track.
They keep, they're a team full of injuries though. The quarterback, of course, when he went out, now the back goes out, the tight end's out.
Yeah.
They've had a whole host of injuries and it's really hurt them. They're struggling right now. And I don't know if they can overcome that.
Yeah, they did sign Taysom Hill to a nice $40 million contract.
I'm glad they did that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're saying to Taysom, hey, you're our guy now. So just don't get crazy. Don't start thinking about what we're going to do with you next year and all that kind of good stuff. But
right.
Yeah, so that'll help. All right, let on to next week's games. We already talked about Raiders Cowboys. You'll see that in a couple of days. There's some other games popping up. Buffalo will take on the Saints, and that'll be down in New Orleans, and that's not going to be easy. Again, the Saints coming off a loss.
Well, they're good on defense, and they'll create problems for Buffalo because they are good on defense. So
yeah, and that environment's going to create problems. That's a hard place to play.
It's a hard place to play.
Yeah, Pittsburgh will take on Cincinnati. Cincinnati, another one of those bounced back teams. They're 6-4 now. I don't know if people know that they're 6-4. Steelers not far behind, 5-4-1, but they're a very different 5-4-1 than.
I kind of feel like I really feel like Cincinnati's just going to get all over them. I think they'll win that one handily. I really do. And
that game is in Cincinnati as well.
Yeah, that's a big game, of course, obviously, and I think Burrow's playing good. Mixon's playing lights out. They had a real good game here last week. And, and then to your point about the receiver joining the quarterback, the 2 kids from the same LSU, and it's got a, they're catching fire again.
Yep. The Buccaneers taking on the Colts. That'll be a fun game now. That's in Indianapolis. And I know what Indy's thinking. They say this is our chance to make a statement.
Well, I think that they're just hitting Indianapolis right at the peak, right at the crest. They've struggled. They're coming back, so they're at full strength too. They're rolling pretty good. This will be a hard game for the Bucs. It'll be a hard game, and they'll get after the quarterback now. They'll get after Brady.
They will.
They'll make life miserable. He's not, he still can throw the ball well and all that, but they get around his feet a little bit, and that's where he has problems. So
yeah, he took off and ran one Monday night, and they made it seem like he just won the men's 100-meter final in the Olympics. But
they were holding bags. So what do you expect?
That's what I'm saying.
The defensive linemen didn't have gear on. They were just
holding bag. Oh, that's bad.
It was awful. I mean, didn't it look like a 7-on-7 drill?
So for our listeners, when coach says holding bags, so what happens in practice is, you're given looks for the opposing team. And back in the day, you'd hold the bag. Now they're all remote controlled, automated. But you'd hold the bag, and then the guy would come in and wham, knock the bag out. And if you didn't get your knee out of the way, you'd get your knee blown out and all that. So that's what it looked like the Giants defense was doing. They were holding back.
It was awful. No pass rush, nothing, so. But anyway, it'll be different for them. They're going to get challenged pretty good, I think.
Like, too bad
They still are not on the same page with those receivers, though. Did you see that screen that got picked?
Nah, they're not on the same
They
page.
couldn't figure out who's going to get the screen out there.
No. Antonio Brown didn't play. He's going through his little stuff, and they say he's got an ankle as well as his little stuff going on off the field there. But yeah. Anyway, let me see. Carolina and Miami. Now, Miami's an interesting team. I had a chance to speak with someone over the weekend inside the Dolphins organization, and they were very complimentary of Tua, and the media seems to rain down on Tua for some reason. I don't know, but this is going to be interesting because now Tua's back in 2 games in a row. They got 2 wins, and they seem to have some energy back. It's 5-6 Carolina taking on 4-7 Miami.
I think that growth for a quarterback when you come in the league like that, it takes some time, and there's a confidence where you get deflated and you're not playing good, and there's that moment, and I think he's gone through that where all of a sudden, okay, I got this. Right. And I think he's gone through that. I've seen many quarterbacks go through that, many of them, and had a couple in college. One in college, we had to bench him, and he came back and just caught fire, and we got going. So it happens, and I think that's what's happened with him. I think he's going to be a real good player, but he had to go through that.
Had to go through it, right?
He had to go through getting benched and being on the bench and watching from the sideline to where all of a sudden you say, okay, that's enough of that,
exactly.
He's gone through that, and I think he's going to be real good. I really do.
Now, will the Chargers go to Denver and slip up? Okay, because they're 6-4, the Chargers, but they're going to play a pretty. I'm not going to use the word solid. A pretty unpredictable 5-5 Bronco team. Let's say.
I think unpredictable is a great term for them. I think defensively they'll have a real good plan for the Chargers. If they can keep the Chargers off the field, run the football effectively, go down, play field position, get a score, either field goal or touchdown, I think the Broncos will have a chance in this. But you know what? I'm such a Charger fan. My hope is that the Chargers go there and just get healthy again, so.
Right. It's gonna be tough.
But I think it'll be hard for them. It'll be hard for the Chargers because they're just really struggling on defense.
Yeah. And then they better get off to a good start too.
But this is like the Don Coryell years. They were great on offense, and remember Tom Bass was the defensive coordinator way back when, in the 70s or whatever, in the 80s, and they were terrible on defense, but great on offense. That's kind of the same.
And that's something for years they were like that, boy. But they could air it out, Mike. And I know you're a Sid Gilman disciple and vertical passing game, and we've talked about that for many years. That was, the league likes to talk about entertaining football and make rules and changes to keep the ball in the air, and that was entertaining football. The way they used to throw it around.
Air Coryell.
Oh, man.
And then even before it, like you said, in the old AFL days, it was fun to watch the Chargers play. And it is. They're just, since I was a small kid, it's the Chargers always.
Lance Always.
San Diego Chargers, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no action, I've got 2 signed jerseys by Lance Always.
Oh, gosh. What was his best route? I know I'm getting
it
long on
doesn't
time.
make it. The biggest deal, you just throw the ball up to him on a go route, and he's going to levitate.
What did he run the 40 in?
Oh, he was incredibly fast. He's a running back out of Arkansas.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He didn't come in the league as a wide receiver. They made him one. And he was incredibly fast. He had real serious speed. Yeah. But he could get up at full speed. He could get up in the air and just pluck the ball over embarrass him. You just embarrass him.
Jeez.
Billy Baird, I used to coach with Billy Baird in college at Fresno State. And Billy Baird was on the Jets team that, go out there and play him all the time. And Billy said, you get shocked by his speed when he came off the ball. So you had to, and of course, Billy wasn't as fast. So you had to adjust, you had to settle and you had to kind of route read and do your homework on him. Otherwise he's going to go by you.
One of these days, we're going to spend some time on that. We're going to dedicate a podcast. And I know I'm putting our Emmy Award-winning producer, Roy Hamilton, on the spot here, because now he's got to make time for us. But we're gonna dedicate a podcast before the season's over to vertical passing game and the origins of it and how it evolved and so on and so forth. And Mike, I'm just going to like tee you up, and then I'm going to go, hit some balls on the golf course or something. And then you're going to get into that for an hour, because I know you can talk for like 10 hours on that.
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's just, it's all predicated, of course, on defense and whatnot, but you got to have those guys that can get vertical too.
Yeah. Right.
That's the primary deal. So,
yeah. All right, Mike, we're going to end with the Rams and the Packers. Well, I lied. We're going to end with the Vikings and 49ers. Let's talk about Rams Packers.
well, I think, where's the game played?
That's in Green Bay.
It's in Green Bay.
Green Bay's beat up. Yeah, Green Bay's beat up now.
Game.
Aaron's got a toe going on.
Oh, I don't care about the toe. They're just a little lidocaine in the toe and he'll be fine.
Little
that. Come on, it's a toe. Come
Dr.
on, please.
Feelgood, right?
Please.
Right.
How many guys had turf toe? Right.
I know.
You get that, and they go in, they cut it and relieve it, and then they get a little lidocaine. After the game, they can't walk, but during the game they're fine.
Yeah, Aaron's playing it up too.
Yeah,
he's talking about how sore it is and all that stuff.
I don't care.
But what is serious? They've got a left tackle issue. Their left tackle, Elgton Jenkins, went out. He's gone for the year. Blew his knee out. Now remember, he was a guard who moved over to left tackle. Okay, trying to fill the hole for David Bakhtiari, who Bakhtiari should be back.
He should be
literally
back.
Any week now. It's like a cliffhanger. They keep saying this week. No, not this week. This week. No. They had to be saving him for this one right here, though. You got Aaron Donald coming into town along with Von Miller. Come on.
Yeah.
What are you paying him all that money for if you're not going to play him this week?
Well, it's going to be a heck of this might be one of the best games of the season. Yeah, that's a terrific defense up in Green Bay. Yeah. Joe's done a great job with that, the defense up there. And offensively, even with the running back gone, Jones, they're still running the football well with Green Bay. So I just don't, I'm not all in on the Rams. I just think they're underachieving a little bit. And that's, had a long association with them. You like to see them win, but defensively, they're kind of, very vanilla, and if they want to be vanilla up there, they're going to get lit up.
Right. And Aaron Jones didn't play last week for Green Bay, so him being on the field, they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to take the blueprint that several teams have used against the Rams this year, namely Tennessee without Derrick Henry, and just smash them out them. So they know they're going to get that part of it. But I think it's key how Matthew Stafford walks into this stadium. He can't walk in there like the Matthew Stafford that got thumped as a Detroit Lion. He better walk in there like he's got some guys behind him now.
But they've got the receivers back now too. The Packers do.
Yeah, I know.
They got those guys back. I think they're close to being at full strength. Obviously the back's out, but
yeah,
I just think that Packers might be too much for them.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's going to be the first game I'm gonna watch.
That's a
great game. Yeah.
That's going to be a game. Yeah, could get a little snow too. That happens this time of year up there.
Some of those California guys have. What is that out there?
Oh boy!
I got to tell you a quick story about.
Okay,
the Rams going to the Packers. I was with the Rams when we were in LA, and we were going up there to play them in December.
What year was this?
I think it was probably 94.
No, I was gone.
93, maybe 93, maybe it's 93.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're in the locker room, and it's I think it's like 2 or 4 degrees out, and guys are trying to get their long johns on, and they're getting in a fist fight over long johns. And one guy wanted a double set on. He's going to be on the sideline. One guy's so you get all this stuff going. The guys are putting Vaseline in their faces, and I grew up in South Dakota, and I coached at Minnesota, and I just put my stuff on. I said, "It's no big deal." And so I get in the end zone. You come out that tunnel, right? And I walk out to midfield, and I felt like my face froze stiff. My ears and my nose hurt so bad, I sprinted to the locker. And I got those ear muffs, and I put Vaseline on my face, and I said, I've forgotten what that felt like. 2 degrees.
That's called the frozen tundra, Mike.
And then when the wind goes,
oh yeah,
man, that's cold. I don't know if I've ever been as cold as I was in that short 5 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah. And now that was, what'd you say? It was 2 degrees?
Yeah.
Okay. So I played in one that was about 8 degrees, and then the wind chill probably kicked it down to -4 or 5. And my mouthpiece froze up. I remember we were playing the Lions. I went to put my mouthpiece in, and almost broke my tooth. The mouthpiece, plastic, hard plastic. It was what a mouthpiece is made of. Everyone knows that.
Yeah,
That sucker was
like a
frozen.
rock. Yeah. Okay, so we're in the second quarter, and they'd scored, and we get a kickoff. We start off on the 20. David Lang from NIU, Northern Arizona, rather. He's our tailback, and he is like a 10, 200-meter guy. He could flat go. So we do a pitch to David. We're going to call this pitch. It was a sweep left. Anyway, they're calling for David because Ernie wants to pitch him the ball, right? And David's over on the sideline. He's got his feet up against, those jets that blow the flames out there?
Yeah.
He's got his feet up there trying to warm them, and they caught fire.
Yeah.
His feet caught fire.
Yeah.
So he's running down the sideline trying to get in the game, and they're trying to douse a fire on his feet. He goes in the huddle, Ron, and his toes are smoking. They pitch him the ball, and the sucker runs all the way down to the 2-yard line. So he takes this thing 78 yards. You tackle him on the 2. They still have those shoes, I think, in the equipment room up there. We call them hot foot after that.
All right, Mike, let's talk about our final game here. Boy, this is going to be a good one, too. This is the Minnesota Vikings, who we just talked about, had a nice win over Green Bay this past weekend. Going out to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Two teams rolling pretty well right now.
It's interesting because the 49ers have just kind of found their stride on how they're going to win games. The last 2 weeks, of course, against the Rams and this past week, they've just grinded out. They'd have these 10, 11-minute drives, and that's a perfect fit. That's what you want to do against a team that's hot on offense right now, like Minnesota. So I think it's going to – I would say that the 49ers will win this one. I think they'll play keep away and play real efficient football, and I think it'll be hard for Minnesota.
Yeah, 49ers now officially third place in the NFC West behind the Rams and behind the leader, Arizona. But the way they're playing, and again, folks, got to remember there's one extra game added to the end of the season here. So there's still plenty of time for them to do something.
There is. They get a shot at the Rams again too, don't they? They've just played them one time here 2 weeks ago. So
they get them again,
and they get them up at their place now. So that'll be interesting too. So they're just now kind of finding their identity, I believe. They're committed to the running game. They do a great job with it. Real efficient with the quarterback, and they're protecting their defense. They're playing real good football.
Yeah, and Mike, that game will actually be in LA because that last game was up in San Francisco. That was the scene of the crime for Matthew Stafford's wife. I guess a fan was heckling her and she threw a frozen pretzel at him. I heard it was a good throw. So that's
it's interesting, Ron. People don't realize to the family how hard it is to the family, these players and coaches and these words and all that stuff that's said. It's great fun for them, but it's brutal for family members.
It is, yeah, and that's sad that someone's got to sit up there and just go after player's wife, knowing that they're vulnerable.
Who she is,
yeah. Anyway, all right, these gnats are starting to eat me up out here, man. I'm in the desert, man. It's beautiful.
It's the blue.
That's
it's it's
not,
blue
Mike.
off.
Mike, it's
bugs
not.
Bugs
Mike.
won't bother you if you take that blue off.
Hey, like they say, Mike. You know what? You'll get another shot at them next year. We'll put your name down. Get in line. All right, Mike. Fun as always, man. See you next week.
All right.